or they try to.
Welcome to the Pittsburgh Business Version, where we interview successful business owners to educate the virgin segment of the population who are thinking about starting their own businesses. I'm your host, Brad Hilbert, president of Three Rivers Wealth Management Group.
We'd like to welcome today's guest, Jason Capps. Jason is a third-generation food service entrepreneur and chef, and the owner of Sera Urban Trattoria, Sera Catering, and Sera Event Venue. Jason has extensive catering and food service experience, and after being raised here locally in Washington, PA, spent years working at world-class destinations on the East Coast, including Nemacolin and Woodlands, and his final position before heading home as catering chef at New York City's prestigious Manhattan gourmet store, Dean and DeLuca. Jason has successfully combined his family's rich Italian history with some solid business practices and has recently opened Sera Urban Trattoria in Pittsburgh downtown Market Square, where I can personally tell you it's truly an amazing and worthwhile experience. With that being said, welcome, Jason, to Three Rivers Wealth Management Group and this production of the Pittsburgh Business Version. Jason, thank you for coming in today. How are you?
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm great.
Thanks for coming in, bud.
Sure.
Hey, I want to start off our interview with a simple question, and that's how'd you come up with the idea of your business, Sera?
Well, it all started many years ago. The idea sprung out of necessity, I think, back in the day when people were starting to be busy and not having time to prepare meals for themselves on a regular basis. I was there with a little prepared food store, and that sprung into catering, which I knew would be the bread and butter of the operation and pay the bills, and that eventually evolved into the banquet hall and then restaurants. So it all kind of started with, I felt it was a niche, providing food to people that were too busy to cook for themselves. So prepared foods, before there was prepared foods in grocery stores. I watched it happen and work well in New York City at Dean and DeLuca, where I work. So if it could work there, and it can work in other areas, I'm sure, and it has so far, so good.
Good. A lot of people who become chef, they always dream of opening up their own restaurants. But your situation's kind of unique because, as you said, you went more to the catering hall. What sort of drove that evolution of your business?
Finances. I mean, it's my money, and the restaurant business is extremely volatile. Typically, if you're netting 5% of your gross,
you're doing all right.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
And so to make $50,000 living, you need to do $1 million a year. So I didn't have that luxury to start out that way. I just kind of did it, I guess, backwards or opposite, not necessarily backwards. Just started out with something that would pay the bills, put food on my table, and then evolved, into the other other entities like the banquet hall and the restaurant.
Now, with that being said, as Brad mentioned, a lot of chefs have that dream and that vision, but it does take the money aspect to get the business up and running. So can you talk a little bit how you got the startup money for your business, and how would you advise new business owners about getting that capital to follow their vision and dream and whatnot?
Yeah, today's a much different market than it was.
Sure.
I went to answer your question. I started with the SBA, Small Business Micro Loan, $50,000. I had great credit, and that's about all I had. I had nothing else. Technically.
How old were you?
I was 29. But truth be told, I've been catering for
in
clients.
Your business virgin days.
Yeah, that's right. My real virgin days of business were back in high school. Whenever I first started catering for people,
yeah.
I have clients I've had for almost 24 years now. I just turned 40, so there are clients I kind of moonlighted and freelanced back in the day. Yeah, and we just did her wedding last summer, so she's been with me. I've done her daughter's party. She's 22, and I've done every birthday party she's ever had. So it's just kind of interesting. But, the SBA microloan program, stack of paperwork, but it's good, solid money. The banks, they secure that with the banks. It's usually a 90%. So the bank is never on the hook for more than 10%. So it's a pretty easy conversion dealing with it. It's technically difficult because of all the paperwork. But, again, today's a different climate market-wise and loans, lending. Couple $1 million that I got a couple years ago to do the banquet hall was easier to get than a couple $100,000 was a year or so ago. So it's but to have
times have changed,
but to have good credit, a good business plan, solid, a core idea, and to be passionate about it is what it's going to take. There's no more whimsical businesses, fly-by-night operations being financed by banks.
Loose with credit.
No.
Yeah.
Now, you did mention something in there about having clients that you've worked with for 20 years. How do you feel you've been able to keep that client loyalty and build that up so where you have that recurring business and whatnot?
Lots of integrity, honesty, just providing I provide what I feel is a premium service. We're not an average cost caterer. We're more on the upscale side. We use fresh ingredients. We take care of our clients. We follow up. We give them what I treat them as if how I'd like to be treated.
Golden rule.
Yeah, and it works well. It seems to. I go out of my way to make sure that they're happy and satisfied. And if they're not, I find out what's wrong and fix it potentially before even the guests know. So the idea is to basically never let them see you sweat or, when you're in the middle of an event, and during weddings, there's no second, third take. It's a one-timer. So
be proactive, huh?
Yeah, and be prepared. It's like the Marines, you have to.
All right, as we wrap up this segment, I'd like to thank Jason for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Check out the rest of this interview at PittsburghBusinessVirgin.com. And please make sure you check out BellaSeraPittsburgh.com, where you can get on Jason's newsletter and learn more about his upcoming events at his various restaurants. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
At the end of a long workday, it's you that your family relies on. Now, here's a family that you can rely on. Three Rivers Wealth Management Group, in Pittsburgh for Pittsburghers. TRWMG.com. That's TRWMG.com.